I'm coming to you from the land of the Gadigal and pay my respects to their ancestors, current elders and leaders, and think about the many generations still to come. Now, our starting point today is the disaster of incarceration, which is underscored by systemic bias and racism, as well as the disaster that is colonisation. And so we'll tell you a bit of a story today and show you some of our excellence, because we are all about rewriting that discourse of us as disadvantaged, instead to be an asset for this country with much to learn from. In terms of incarceration, we have the highest rates in the world here in Australia, but we miss that point because we aggregate data about Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people's incarceration with the mainstream. When we separate it out, we see that Aboriginal women's incarceration rates are the fastest growing and an extreme risk, because we know that when a mother is in prison, when a mother has poor mental health, then children suffer. They are more likely to be removed in out-of-home care, which is itself known to be a risk for juvenile detention and in turn adult incarceration. So whilst on the one hand that is a disaster, we know that we have the solutions for our communities, and we've been working for many years on that. But as is our way, it's about putting first peoples first, and I'd like to share this story with you. It's about a woman we call Tiny Mum, because she's a tiny mum, but such power. In jail, I was in anger management. They asked me to do anger management, and I done anger management, and I ended up having a fight in anger management. So then I had to keep repeating about 6 times, 7 times. I've still got the anger in me. I'm trying to get rid of it. So alcohol was making me worse. I've got to stay off the alcohol. That's my worst drug, is alcohol. I say to myself, what's wrong with you? You've got to be strong. You're a Black woman. Backbone, you know. That's what I know. And a lot of people do say to me, you're a very strong woman. I can't be getting into trouble all the time, in and out. That's not going to solve anything. That's going to push me away from my own children. I have some goals for me and the girls. When I stopped drinking, those others all used to come up to the house with the grog, and I used to chase them all away. I used to say, you fellas have got no respect for a person trying to give up drinking. Since I've grown up, I've believed in my dream time. It makes me stronger. I talk with the old people all the time. I'm better when they're there, because there's healing there too. If you're strong enough to believe in being able to do things, maybe you might get stronger and be able to do them. So within that, we just see so much of what's been shared today, all the layers that action is required at within the individuals and within systems. And we see whole families affected when one person is affected. And so that brings us on to wanting to talk to you about the Aboriginal Family Wellbeing Program. And I'll hand over to Melissa to give a rundown on that.
Thank you, Megan. It's a privilege to speak with you at this forum today. So I will very briefly just take you through a few crucial learnings that we've had that have emerged through this Family Wellbeing Empowerment Program. This is an incredibly powerful program. It was developed by and for Aboriginal people, and it has spawned about 30 years of research. It was developed 30 years ago, but we have learned so much from this program. And just a few key points on the principles of the program. We've learned that even in the most desperate of situations, there is always something a person can do to make things better if provided with a healing environment. And empowerment occurs when people can recognize and apply their own strengths and their inner qualities, their best qualities and their choices. Change starts from within, and skills and little successes makes this change sustainable. And finally, empowered individuals can be supported to use this personal change as a basis for participatory and leading organizational and community level change that we've heard so much about this morning. In our research, we've also found that there is very much an emotional journey that people go through as they go potentially from very difficult spaces, such as incarceration, as Megan has pointed out, and we can hear so strongly from the story of Tiny Mum. But we also know a lot about healing spaces now from a vast array of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander research. We know what it takes to enable healing. And the ability to move from very difficult and dark spaces, places where people can get stuck, and take them into places where their lives are very enriched through enabling them to live their values and their authentic identity. We've also developed a measure of this journey of healing and into empowerment. And we call that the Growth and Empowerment Measure. It was developed from stories and of people who did go from dark places, become healed, and actually understand what it means truly to become empowered at individual level, in working in organizations and groups and contributing to others, as well as pushing towards structural change, enabling the best outcomes across all groups in society. And so we have this tool called the Growth and Empowerment Measure has helped us to look inside. What are the processes that enable people to heal, recover, and then find themselves contributing to a better situation for themselves and their communities? So these are some of the aspects that are measured in the Growth and Empowerment Measure. The measure has made itself around the world and is now being translated into Mohawk and Inuit in Canada, because those groups have recognized that this is a measure that actually allows monitoring or demonstrating of movement from very dark places to much better places in people's lives. So I'll hand back to Megan now to continue.
Great, thank you, Mel. And measurement is, incredibly important to us to get it right from our perspectives in order to inform action. We use this multi-level empowerment model or socio-ecological model, and this helps us to clarify exactly what's going on in the situation. They're not new, but it's actually quite new for us to have one that's so specific to particularly Aboriginal urban contexts. And you'll see here that we must have action with self and healing within a family context, support from services, and with the broader system. And for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, there are cross-cutting factors that also must be addressed. That's obviously the socio-political environment, the hostility that we experience on a daily basis from other people, the ignorance and the lack of understanding and the sheer fear that people feel in relation to not knowing how to deal with us, not knowing how to address the issues, not knowing if they're going to say the wrong thing about us or not. That erodes our ability to work together and to together forge a healthier future. So this socio-ecological model is vital to help clarify what's going on, what factors are at play, and that is essential for us for truth-telling. And we do hear about that need for truth-telling from the Uluru Statement of the Heart. And so that this also asks of us, what roles do we play within each of these levels and the power that we each might have whether we're Aboriginal, Torres Strait Islander or any other cultures. And you'll see in the next slide, Mel, further to that point about how essential it is that measurement of issues includes Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander perspectives. We have at our fingertips our own, for example, framework for program evaluation. Now, this Nabinya framework includes a series of prompts under 4 domains to help from the outset of a program's life consider what data from an Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person's perspective or organisation's perspective is going to be useful to understand the impact and outcomes in the short and long term. So these types of things, and the next slide as well, Mel, are not to be explained to you today. There are references to these things, but to bedazzle you, basically, to show you what strength Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people do have, and to help us to shine through putting First Peoples first in this country. So we started out with Emma showing a tree, and trees have great significance to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. This one is from a suite of resources by the Healing Foundation. Note that it's not called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Healing Foundation. That's the Healing Foundation for all Australians with First Peoples first. And this is about collective healing, Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander cultures being collective, that collective identity. And that includes place, because our identity is not separated from the environment, but we're part of the environment and part of all that there is. And so you'll see in this tree, the elders have identified clearly for us exactly what to do in order to make progress. That very big, strong root base are all the upstream determinants. And then all of the activities to grow a strong trunk that produce the outcomes in the leaves. And you'll see that they're all the same size and shape, and they're all moving in the right direction toward the sun and able to produce seeds for the next generations. So that a lot of answers are provided to us if only we know basically how to get out of the way and listen and enact what they instruct us to. So I think I'll leave it at that. That touches on the issue of power and the locus of power in this country, and also with empowerment. Thanks for having us share today.